Your parents could afford a house on one income. A normal job, a modest salary, no inheritance, no trust fund. Just a paycheck, and a dream that was considered completely ordinary. Today that same house, in that same neighborhood, costs 10 times what it did then. And the salary needed to buy it has not kept up. Not even close. This is not inflation. This is not bad luck. This is not a market correction. The housing market was broken deliberately. By specific people, using specific tools. At a specific moment in time. Today we name them, this is the Wealth Slate. And this is the video the real estate industry does not want you to watch. For most of recorded history, a house was a place to live. Its price was roughly tied to what it cost to build, the value of the land, and what people in the local area could afford. The rule of thumb for generations was simple. A house should cost no more than 3 times your annual household income. 3 times, that was the standard. That was affordable. House equals 3 times your annual salary. That was the rule. In most major cities today, that ratio is between 8 and 15 times the average salary. In some cities it has crossed 20 times. The rule did not change because land ran out or construction got harder. It changed because 3 decisions made over 3 decades turned houses from homes into investment assets. And the moment a house becomes an investment asset, the people who profit from rising prices will always have more power than the people who just need somewhere to live. The first, central banks and the low interest rate era. From roughly the 1980s through the 2010s, central banks around the world pushed interest rates to historic lows. The intention was to stimulate economic growth. The side effect was that borrowing became incredibly cheap. When borrowing is cheap, people can take out bigger mortgages. When people can take out bigger mortgages, they bid more for houses. When they bid more for houses, prices go up. When prices go up, more investors buy houses as assets. And the cycle accelerates. Cheap money turned homes into investment vehicles. The second, institutional investors and corporate landlords. Starting in earnest after the 2008 financial crash, something unprecedented happened. Large investment funds, managing billions of dollars, began buying single-family homes at scale. Not to live in, to rent out, to hold as assets, to profit from rising prices. In some cities, institutional investors now own between 20 and 40% of all single-family rental homes. They are not buying with a salary. They are buying with a spreadsheet. And they will always outbid you. Your competitor in the housing market is a billion-dollar fund. The third, zoning laws and political inaction. In almost every major city in the world, there are strict rules about what can be built and where. These zoning laws were often introduced with good intentions, preventing overcrowding, protecting neighborhoods. But they have had one consistent side effect. They restrict supply. When supply is restricted and demand keeps growing, prices only go in one direction. And the people most motivated to keep those zoning laws in place are the people who already own property. Because every new home built near theirs risks reducing their asset value. Homeowners vote, renters move. Politicians know this. And so the supply stays restricted, and the prices stay high. Now let's put real numbers on this. Because the math is what makes this impossible to ignore. In 1970, the average home in a major Western city cost roughly 3 times the average annual salary. Today that same ratio sits between 8 and 12 times. And in the world's most expensive cities, it exceeds 20 times. 1,970. House equals 3 times salary. 2026. House equals 8 to 12 times salary. Here is what that means in practice. A household earning $80,000 per year could once qualify for a mortgage on a home worth $240,000. That same income today, in most major cities, faces average home prices of $650,000 to over $1 million. The mortgage payment on a $900,000 home at current interest rates is roughly $5,000 per month. After tax, an $80,000 salary provides about $5,300 per month. That leaves $300 per month for food, transport, utilities, and everything else a life requires. The math no longer works. And it was designed that way. This is not a side effect. This is not an accident. When housing becomes an investment asset, affordability for buyers is not the goal. Price appreciation is, and those two things are direct opposites. At every stage of this process, the people making the decisions had an explanation. Low interest rates were supposed to help ordinary people borrow more affordably. Institutional investors were supposed to provide rental housing supply. Zoning was supposed to protect communities. Here is what actually happened. Low interest rates inflated asset prices faster than wages could follow, locking a generation out of ownership entirely. Institutional investors hoarded supply, drove up rents, and lobbied against policies that would increase housing availability. Zoning protected the asset values of people who already owned, at the direct expense of people who did not. Every policy that was sold as help made it worse. This is the pattern the wealth slate documents across every system we examine. The gap between what is announced and what actually happens. The gap between who is said to benefit and who actually benefits. Housing is not an exception to this pattern. It is the clearest example of it. Let's be precise about who benefits from unaffordable housing, because this is not an abstract system. There are specific winners, people who already own property. Every time housing becomes less affordable for buyers, the value of existing homes increases. A person who bought a house 20 years ago has watched their net worth multiply without doing anything. Their house did the work. Institutional investors and real estate investment trusts. They collect rent from people who cannot afford to buy, which is now most people under 40 in a major city. Rental income goes up as demand for rentals rises. Demand for rentals rises as buying becomes impossible. The loop is self-reinforcing. Banks and mortgage lenders. A $900,000 mortgage at current rates generates roughly $400,000 in interest payments over 25 years. The more expensive the house, the larger the mortgage, the greater the interest revenue. Banks have no incentive for prices to fall. Expensive housing is not a problem for everyone. For some, IT is the business model. Let's be precise about who benefits from this. This is the part where most finance channels tell you to just invest in index funds or move to a cheaper city. That is not what we are going to do. Because the honest answer is more complicated than that. Understand what you are actually buying. If you are buying a home to live in, you are not making an investment. You are solving a housing problem. Those are two different decisions with two different maths. The moment you understand this, you stop comparing your housing cost to stock market returns and start comparing it to the cost of renting. Stop trying to time the market. The housing market will not crash to 1970 price-to-income ratios. The institutional investors, the banks, and the existing homeowners who vote are all economically motivated to prevent that. The system is not going to fix itself. Plan accordingly. Use the tools that exist, imperfect as they are. Tax-advantaged savings accounts, first homebuyer programs, and housing cooperatives exist. They are not perfect solutions, but they are the available tools. Build assets that are not housing. If you cannot buy in your city at a price that makes financial sense, do not buy rent. Invest the difference in index funds. In 15 years, you will likely have more net worth than someone who bought at the peak. Not buying is also a financial strategy. Own that decision. So here is the wealth slate verdict on the housing market. The housing crisis is not a natural disaster. It is not an inevitable consequence of population growth. It is the predictable result of three interconnected policy decisions that systematically prioritized asset prices over human shelter. Central banks made money cheap. Institutional investors bought the supply. Zoning laws restricted new supply from emerging. And at every stage, the people making those decisions already owned property. They had every incentive to keep prices high. Understanding this does not immediately solve your housing problem, but it does two important things. It removes the shame. If you cannot afford a home in a major city in 2026, that is not a personal failure. It is the mathematical consequence of a system that was not designed for you. And it tells you exactly where to direct your energy. Not into the housing market on terms that do not work for you. Into building wealth through the channels that the same system has not yet fully captured. The game is rigged. But knowing the rules of a rigged game is still better than not knowing them. This is the wealth slate. Financial truth told in black and white. If this changed how you see the housing market, subscribe. Because next week we go even deeper into the system. See you then.